Hey peeps, Erin Zen Warrior here. So, human design mechanics and cold and flu. This is something I think a lot of you don't realize. I just want to wipe my camera. I'm a bit smudgy. This is something that probably a lot of you don't realize. You know, when it comes to cold and flu, we've been taught a lot of stuff. Oh, by the way, Erin Zen Warrior, signing in, do the like, follow, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, I'm someone who, well, recently actually got a tummy bug, which is a different thing, I believe. But cold and flu within the society we live in, we're taught a lot of things about our immune system and how our immune system works. And we're taught it from a Western medical reality, and there's some truth in that, but I would say it's not a whole picture. And I love the Western reality because it gives me nuts and bolts through which I can help on a three-dimensional level strengthen up a body, and through strengthening that body we can strengthen how the mind is working, and we can clean up the souffle of the mind. And the souffle of the mind can be very diseased, that is, can be very depressed, can be very angry, can be very lots of things. And a lot of those things actually are born in the body. Now, when we look at human design and we look at the body graph, we see the mechanism, right? And this mechanism has lines and centers and all this sort of stuff. And what a lot of you don't know is that your body, as represented by this mechanism, which previously looked more like a 7-centered chakra being, now looks like this 9-centered rocket ship, essentially, with channels or lines connecting squares and circles and diamonds and stuff. What it actually represents is how you should work as an individual, how you might be in your definition if you weren't deeply conditioned. And so in order to run your definition, the colored shit in your chart, you need to decondition. And of course, for projectors like myself, that deconditioning process is constant. Why is that deconditioning process constant? Because you're a projector, you're always getting conditioned. That's our process. And so we must acknowledge that for projectors, the process is continually to go from conditioning to deconditioning, which is really relevant when it comes to catching colds and flu. And here's why. When you get inside a group, let's say your group is a husband, a wife, 2 kids and a dog. Right? The dog is going to be the healthiest, except for the dog is actually most likely going to reflect the health of the family. So if there's something going on with the dog, pay attention. But a family quite often has a child bring into it a flu or a sniffle or whatever it is, and the whole family gets taken out. Why? Because the parents want to protect the child, and in the process of protecting the child, they condition in to the wants and needs of that child over and above themselves. Now, a child goes to school, it goes to a big group of people, a classroom, and it gets its little circle of friends, or it's trying to make friends, and as it does that, it picks up lots of viruses. Why? And particularly colds and flu. Why? Because it's in a big group. Now, you go into an office and you're in a big group and there's an intention, and you're conditioned and indoctrinated into the format of that business, because that business needs you to indoctrinate in order for it, or it feels it needs you to indoctrinate, in order for you to fulfill the intention of that tribe. And in human design, we call it a WA or an OC16. We have a few names for different formats of tribe. But essentially what happens is, as soon as you get into a group of 3 or more people, your body down-regulates all those channels, right? So when you look at your body graph and you see the lines connecting the centers, what actually happens when you're in a group is it down-regulates all those lines into hotspots. You are no longer a set of lines and et cetera. What you actually are is just hotspots of energy. And those hotspots of energy are doing a job for the collective. They're no longer doing a job for you as an individual. And in some ways there's nothing wrong with that, except for we're moving into a time where supporting your individuality actually supports a bigger picture within the tribe. And we are going from a time where we were happy with the down regulation. And what that meant was every time that we were happy with the down regulation of the individual, we were also happy with the down regulation of their immune system on a very basic level so that they pick up colds and flus. And we kind of accept that cold and flu is part of hanging out around groups of people. It's part of going to school. It's part of having children. It's part of working in an air-conditioned office, right? So here's the thing. The more of an individual you are, the stronger your immune system is going to be. The more you decondition and practice deconditioning with your various techniques, I teach some of those, by the way, the more you do that, the less exposed you're going to be to cold and flu, no matter how much you are actually physically in the space of cold and flu. And keeping in mind that physically being around people starts impacting your body in a way that it wants to condition into the group. It actually automatically, unconsciously wants to do that. Now, I am a really devoted individual. I do not condition in easily. I see the request of conditioning and I look at it like it's the plague, right? And as a result, I resist. Does that mean I resist all conditioning? No, it does not. I am a projector. My process is to go from conditioning to deconditioning so that I can help others with deconditioning, right? That is how projectors learn. So, am I often exposed to cold and flu? Yes. Do I get cold and flu often? No. Why? Because I often practice deconditioning. In fact, every day I practice deconditioning, and I like to spend a lot of time out of aura with people. When I come into aura with people and I'm close and touching people, it is for my job. And I'm almost deliberately holding a deconditioning process in the process of being in space with them. So what does that mean? I have been around people who are very, very, very sick with cold and flu and not caught it. Sometimes I will feel it trying to lock into my system and I will get rid of it before I even go to bed. Whatever is trying to lock in there, I can clear it away. So a lot of you think your cold and flu stuff is related to how strong your immune system is. And that is true. But I would also say that your immune system strength is related to how much you are conditioned into your environment and into your collective. And the more you decondition from that, the stronger your immune system is going to be. So do I take lots of vitamin C and B and all this sort of stuff and magnesium? And yeah, I want to be an optimal human being. Absolutely I do. But the biggest thing that I do to help myself is I am my individual self as much as I possibly can be. I work on it. I do meditation. I do dance. I've actually moved away from group orientated stuff like capoeira because they love to hug each other and there's a lot of narrative around doing stuff for the collective as the right way to live, as opposed to doing stuff for the collective is recommended and we welcome it, but you don't have to do it to be here. Well, there's almost a narrative in many, many environments that being here requires you to be part of the collective under the collective's conditions, not your own authority. And I do not subscribe to that. I also, one of the things I don't like about capoeira is that everybody hugs, irrespective of whether they like each other or not. I know for a fact people have hugged me in capoeira who can't fucking stand me. Right? And I'm like, just keep your grubby little mitts to yourself. I don't want you to touch me. Like, I don't actually want to be hugged by everyone. Not because I don't like hugs, not because I'm not a great hugger. I'm told on good authority from good huggers that I am, but because hugging should be done by authority. I should feel it or not. And it doesn't mean I don't love you if I don't touch you. I'm going to see my great friend tonight perform music, an ex-client of mine as well. And I love her dearly. We do not hug. It is not a thing that we do. We stay in our own space out of respect for the other, right? So it's a really interesting thing to consider that the immune system is actually very much connected to how much you are not self and conditioned in to the tribe or the collective around you, rather than holding your own space and holding your own integrity as an individual. And I guarantee you, the more you move towards yourself, the more you go into what we call in human design, the experiment of discovering what it is to really live in your design, the less you are going to get sick with cold and flu. So, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, I'd love to hear comments on this one, right? Like I said, I do not get sick with cold and flu very often. I actually do not remember the last time I had a sniffle or a cold or anything. It's been years, years and years. I definitely can tell you that I am quite radically responsible about what was going on for me mentally, emotionally when I did get those things, what I was trying to get from another, how I was trying to draw something out of the people around me. And so because of that, I was willing to compromise myself. And in that compromise, I weakened my defense force, my immune system. So give me your stories. I want to hear. Erin Zamboria signing out and wondering what these people are doing in front of me. It's not a good example of driving.